Alright, so let's start taking this apart and fixing her. You can see what actually failed on here is the rubber inside of here, then the metal and the rust, and the whole thing just starts coming apart. And this is how it should look with the rubber dampeners on here that isolate it from the actual clutch engagement here. Make it a little smoother and of course less noise. Now, this one totally failed, so it's extra noisy. So right here in the center is an 8mm bolt. Pop that out of there. They usually don't have a problem coming out of there. And then this actual clutch hub just slides right out. Of course, now it's in pieces. Here's the disc itself. Get rid of all that. Now at this point you need to check right here or inside of here. There's going to be a little washer inside of it. That's the actual shim that shims the depth between the actual clutch face and the pulley here. So we're going to have to readjust that at the end, and usually the one that's on there can be reused and won't need an actual shim kit for this. See it? Just take a pick from this side and pop it out of there. It looks like that, very small. And there's a bunch of different sizes to make sure your clutch air gap is perfect on there for engagements. Put that to the side. Now this pulley on here is pressed on here and it's retained on here by a snap ring. So you're going to need snap ring pliers, obviously. See if you can see it a little bit better. There it is. You can see the little eyelets. Get it off of there. We're going to have to save this because none of the pulley kits or anything come with a new one, so make sure yours is okay. Mine just was a little bit greasy and rusty, but it looks just fine now that I cleaned it up. Put that out to the side too. Next thing we're going to do is press off the actual pulley, and we're going to press off this outer ring right here. And the best way to do that is a socket like this, 21mm Craftsman socket, 1/2-inch drive, and we'll put the puller right here in the center, and it'll press off of that. You don't want to press off this center shaft in here and damage it. Now I'm going to use an actual little bearing puller type deal to do the same thing, but you can definitely use a socket and it won't damage the backside here because pressing it off of there isn't that bad. I mean, it'll press off pretty easy, so you won't mar up your socket too bad, if at all. And then you simply grip the sides of the pulley, something like that, and just make sure you're not gripping the field coil inside of there. You can look underneath here and you can see, and make sure you're gripping only the pulley, so we're pressing the pulley off only and not the field coil, which is this right here, and that's underneath that in the center here. See on mine I have to pull it out quite a bit because that field coil's right there. And right here I'll show you, this is the jaw of the puller, and it's hooked underneath the pulley itself instead of the field coil also. So you make sure you're on the very edge like that, and it'll press it up off there pretty easy. This one's actually breaking away. It's so far gone. Wow. Let's put the off of here. Pretty cool, huh? Now this right here is not typical, but this one's so far gone that it actually was pressing off. You can see it's flush now. It was pressing off just fine, but it was so far gone that it couldn't take the force from the outside of the pulley to the inside. The actual ribs in here just start caving under the pressure. So we're going to cut these off. Something like that. Alright, as far as pulling the field coil up, there's a recess slot right here on each side to get your jaw pliers puller in there. And we're going to use that in our 2-jaw puller, same thing, and press it off of there. Now this step only applies if you pull the field coil off of there. Like I said, it doesn't usually fail, but the actual pulley itself and the clutch hub right here actually fails on there. So this step only applies if you took it off. So put a little bit of grease on here, right here, and then the actual connector side goes on this side where the bolts are at that we took out. So you gotta make sure you face it the right way, and it's in that recess. Put it on there straight. And then you can go around and hammer it on there, but it's not good for the coil in that side of there, because that's all it really is a coil. It's winding inside of there, so you don't want to jar it any more than you have to. But at first, we're going to tap it on there so it goes on there even, because it is a tight fit. So we got it nice and even, and we're going to try to get it on there. And started. Now it's best to actually press down right here on the housing of it, right down into it, and we're going to hook underneath the housing of the AC compressor with a big 2-jaw puller, and we're going to suck it down into there. Now I got a bigger one that actually fits around the outside here, same thing. You definitely don't want to hit anywhere in here or press down anywhere in here where the actual magnetic clutch is at. So this will go on there. With our big 2-jaw puller, we're going to put it on there. We're going to hook under the actual housing on here, and then start it by hand. Make sure it's all even on here, because it is a tight fit, like I said, so we want to press it evenly. And that right there looks pretty even, so we're going to start pressing it onto there. In the end, the actual coil right here should be flush all the way around. Just keep spinning the compressor with the housing here, so we know it's on there straight. And also, over here, your field coil connector right here should be basically centered somewhere within this groove right here, this recess. Now as far as the pulley goes, it doesn't matter which direction it goes because it obviously spins, but it's going to be a nice tight press-on fit also. So we're going to put it on there as straight as possible, just like that. And then we're going to take, what I'm using is an 1 1/8, fits the inner diameter here pretty good. We're going to tap it on there. Now this one's not as tight as the actual field coil because it actually gets snap ringed in place, whereas a field coil relies totally on being pressed into place and not moving again. So this one goes down pretty easy. You can tap it on here, and that last part just drops right in. And now that's fully down, we can spin it and hear that it's not interfering with the field coil inside of there. So that's a good sign that we got the field coil itself fully seated all the way around properly. And we'll put our snap ring in here, and that should easily fall into the groove. Just make sure you get it fully seated all the way around, like so, especially by the ears up here. And if you have to, because it is a tight fit, you could take a screwdriver and tap it in a little bit at the ears, like this one, probably going a little further. And that'll make sure it's fully seated. Now, as far as adjusting the air gap, it's pretty simple, especially on these ones. You take your old washer, and we'll start there. Now Ford does offer a shim kit with varying sizes, but we'll start with the one that came on it. Put it right there in the center, and then spline it over without knocking it off of there. We'll put our bolt back in. Snug it up. Nothing too tight. And then the air gap spec on this is actually pretty wide. It's 14 thousandths to 30 thousandths is acceptable. So we're going to try it out 30 thousandths, which is our maximum gap. And you stick it between the actual clutch hub here and the pulley. And it's pretty hard for me to get this one in here. And this is a 30 thousandths. This is the max. Got no noise. We're not dragging yet. So let me try a 24 thousandths or 25. Yeah, 25 is pretty tight. So let's go down to, let's say, 15. And what you should feel on here is it should be able to go in here pretty easy, and you'll feel a slight drag, kind of like this one. So this one's probably around 15, 16 thousandths, and that's good. You want it at the lower end so it allots for wear, because it will wear over time and get to that 30 thousandths maximum air gap in there. So, you know, lower the better, as long as you're within that 14 to 30 thousandths spec. We got a slight drag. We're good. One last check of it beforehand. Make sure you turn this, and you can turn our compressor just fine. Everything inside of there still moves. And then we're going to spin the pulley, and we can see it spinning. There's no noise with the air gap we have set on here. So that'll make no noise while the engine's running and the AC's off and it's just idling.